Are you guys interested in buying yourself some sweet anime merch? If you click the link in description, there are a lot of choices, such as hoodies, jackets. There are a lot of anime merch that you can choose from, such as My Hero Academia, One Piece, and many more. You will also be able to get some discounts from 20%, 60% off. They offer worldwide shipping. And if you are ready to purchase some of these amazing merch, use the link in my description.
When you finish this video, you're going to Google 3 words. In 2014, a German man and his friends went on vacation to a seaside resort in Bulgaria. On the last day of his trip, he got in a fight with 4 other guys over a soccer match, leaving him with a perforated eardrum. A doctor prescribes him an antibiotic and advises him not to fly home the next day with his friends because a change in air pressure could further damage his eardrum. So, his friends take off the next day and he decides to stay one more night and checks into a cheap hotel. That night, his mother gets a distressing phone call from him where in a low whisper he says that 4 men are coming to kill him and that she should cancel all of his bank cards. Footage from that night in the hotel shows him pacing up and down the hallway and even hiding in an elevator. Early the next day, he heads to the airport, but before he goes through security, he does something truly unexplainable that was captured on camera and has been viewed millions of times across the internet. He stops, drops all of his things, turns around and sprints out of the airport yelling, "I don't want to die here," climbs a barbed wire fence, disappears into the forest, never to be seen again. This is why you should never open your door for strangers. In 2013, a woman let her dog out to use the bathroom one more time before bed. After only a few minutes, she starts hearing scratching on her door, which is typically the sound her dog makes when he's ready to come in. But it just seemed way too soon for him to be done being outside. So she decides to look through the peephole to make sure it really is her dog. But what she sees is terrifying. A deranged-looking man is right outside her door, staring intently at her door handle, waiting for it to turn open. As she's looking in horror, unable to do anything, he starts scratching at the door as hard as he can, never leaving his gaze from the door handle. She manages to stifle a scream, she backs away and realizes her dog is still outside. So she goes to the side window, but there's no sign of her dog, and so she goes back to the door to see if maybe the man's moved. He hasn't moved, his mouth is open, and he's staring directly at the peephole. Then he turns around and walks away. With the man gone, she discovers her dog unharmed, his leash had just been cut. But that means he had a knife.
Dude, why do we drive in parkways, but park in driveways?
That's actually a good point.
Don't encourage him. You'll only make things worse.
You know, if you think about it, your burps are just your puke's farts.
I think it's time for me to go to bed. Good night. Smart.
If it rains on a Sunday, does that mean it's now a rain day?
Ryan, you realize he's not going to come back to my house after tonight, right? And he's not going to like the idea of burping for a long time.
Your alarm sound is technically your theme song, since it plays at the start of every episode.
Ryan, can you come here for a minute? I have a few questions.
No, go to bed! See what you did?
Bro, clapping is just hitting yourself repeatedly because you like something.
You proud of yourself?
So there was this little girl in church who was sitting in front of us in the biggest, puffiest coat in the middle of summer, and her parents had obviously let her dress herself. I don't know, she was like 5 or something. And like 15 minutes into the sermon, she turns around and hands my brother an orange, and her parents look at her, they're like, "Savannah, not again." And so they sit her back around facing forward, and she waits a couple minutes before she turns back around and tries to hand me an orange. But her parents grab it out of her hand this time and force her to sit back around. But she was determined, dude. She takes her little fist and she just shoves them into her coat pockets and pulls out 2 more oranges. And she just throws them to random people in the aisle. At this point, her parents are just like so red in the face and embarrassed and stuff that there's basically no stopping this little Savannah girl now. This child proceeds to laugh, the most maniacal little evil laugh that I've ever heard, as she unzips her inner coat pockets and out falls 20 or 30 of these tiny little oranges. And she goes, "We eat now!" And she starts throwing the oranges to random people in the pews. And at this point, the priest is laughing, the band is laughing. And I tell you, that little girl basically felt like Jesus on the mountain.
Take out a TV remote, aim it directly at your camera, and click and hold any of the buttons. What you should see is a little infrared beam coming off of your TV remote, because our smartphones can pick up infrared where our naked eye cannot. And so there's a really cool practical application of knowing that your phone can see infrared. And it's to detect if there are hidden cameras in a room that you're in. So let's say you go into a new hotel room or a public restroom, or you're overseas in some sketchy place and you're worried about someone spying on you. Whip out your phone, throw it on camera, selfie mode, and scan the room while watching your phone. If there is a flash of red on your camera, what's happening is the wavelength from your phone's camera and the wavelength from the camera that is hidden somewhere in your room are superimposing and creating an infrared region that your phone can pick up. So if you see that flash of red, you got a problem and you should probably call the police. This is why you shouldn't go for walks in Sweden. In 2008, a Swedish woman went out for an evening stroll with her dog, but never came back. Her husband went looking for her and found her dead next to a lake. The police immediately blamed her husband and sent him to jail. After a few months, the woman's forensic analysis report came back, and it was clear the husband was innocent because there was all this hair and saliva on the woman's body that was not his. It turns out there is a very strange phenomenon that occurs in Sweden in the fall when all of the apples have fallen off of their trees. Those apples ferment, and then hordes of moose eat those apples, becoming drunk and oftentimes very belligerent, like this drunk moose who got stuck in a tree. The hair and saliva of the killer belonged to a drunk Swedish moose.
Dude, why is bacon called bacon and cookies called cookies if you cook bacon and bake cookies?
Ryan, please not now. I'm trying to sleep!
Do clothes in China just say, made down the road?
Doc, I don't know. The government says we can't leave our house anymore because all the questions he asks is a threat to society. I mean, look at Jimmy, he's out for the count.
If your shirt isn't tucked into your pants, is your pants tucked into your shirt? If you're invisible and you close your eyes, can you see through your eyelids? Dude, a fire truck is actually a water truck.
I really miss Jimmy.
So this government agency is trying to find top-tier spies to work for them and stuff. And so they've interviewed hundreds of FBI agents over the course of weeks, and they finally narrow it down to 3 guys. And so they bring the first guy to this big warehouse with a big metal door in front. They hand him a gun and say, inside your wife is tied to a chair. You need to kill her in order to be in this group. The guy starts crying. He breaks down. I can't do it. He gives back the gun. They say, you're not right for the job. They kick him out. They bring the second guy, said, inside, tied to the chair is your wife. You need to go kill her with this gun and come back to us. So he goes in there. It's silent for about 5 minutes. He comes back out, gives him the gun, says, I'm sorry, I can't do it. They take the gun. They say, get out of here. You're not right for the job. They bring the third guy. They hand him the gun. They say, your wife's tied to a chair in there. Go kill her, and you can join the group. So he goes in. There's a gunshot, then another, and another, and another, and another, and multiple gunshots, followed by loud screaming and banging and kicking. The guy opens the door. And he says, one of you idiots didn't load the gun. I had to strangle.
When you finish this video, you're going to Google 2 words. In 1959, 9 very experienced Russian hikers set off on a 16-day expedition into the mountains. 7 days in and some bad weather forced them to make camp about halfway up a mountain. The last pictures of them alive were taken at this campsite. When the hikers never showed up, they sent out a search party who quickly found their campsite, and it was immediately apparent that something horrible had happened to them. All their tents had been slashed open, but from the inside, and inside the tents was all their gear, neatly folded and stacked inside the remains of the tents. No bodies, but 9 sets of footprints walking away from the camp. Using the footprints, they discovered 5 hikers who were only dressed in underwear who had died of hypothermia. They found the other 4 hikers 250 feet away in a riverbed wearing the clothes of their dead hiker friends. They had skull fractures, chest fractures, eyes, tongue, lips missing, and their bodies were radioactive. Official cause of death? Unknown compelling force.